Hello, everybody. Welcome to this session on story writing. This is Shudipto, and you are watching E for English. As promised earlier, today we will have a general session on story writing, which will be followed by four detailed sessions on various components of story writing. In order to access to those detailed sessions, please subscribe to this channel, that is E for English. So, what is a story? A story is a form of writing where the writer describes an event or some character in order to entertain people. A story is an event or a string of events where characters find themselves struggling to get themselves sorted. Story is very important in life. It is the stories that define us. We are what we are because of the stories we have heard, the stories we have seen, the stories we have experienced. Story could well be defined in innumerable ways. A story is a description of something or somebody the writer invents in order to entertain people. In order to give you the sense of what a good story is, I'd like to tell you a limerick. So there was a young lady of Niger who smiled as she rode on a tiger. There was a young lady of Niger who smiled as she rode on a tiger. They came back from the ride, the lady inside, and the smile on the face of the tiger. To me, this is a brilliant story because there was a happy young lady, a tiger, and they had friendship. They went on a journey together. They came back, but when they came back, the lady was not riding the tiger anymore. The lady was inside the belly of the tiger. But the smile was there. The smile has just shifted from the face of the young lady who rode on the tiger to that of the tiger's face. This shift, this irony, this magic is called story. And in order to create that magic in your writing, you have to concentrate on 6 components. A title to a story is like an identity card to a stranger. It gives an impression of the person carrying it. As a reader, the title guides us to the meaning of the story. But as a writer, it's really confusing. For instance, 8.5, a number, her, a pronoun, ox, a strong animal, half girlfriend, I don't know what it is, fly, an insect, the district doctor, okay, the girl who drank the moon, my God, and ouch. These are all names, these are all titles. So, as a writer, it's really confusing. But don't worry, it is simple. Believe me. A title could be a noun. As a strategy, we can look at the titles as nouns. Again, it could be a pronoun, a qualifier, betrothed, dethroned, outraged. This all could be a title, a very short description. For instance, the girl who drank the moon, the girl with a dragon tattoo, even an utterance of a character like ouch. It could even an utterance of a character like oh my God. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Could be a title. And there is another category, sixth category. It's called creative category. In this category, you can have anything for a title, but we will not go deep into it right now. In our detailed session on title, we will see how creative you could be with your titles. Your title, I mean, the title of your story could well be any one of these six. After title, we must be concerned with character. Ultimately, a story is someone else's experience, and a writer's job is to create a credible somebody, is to create a character whose experience we would love to have. We would love to see the world through their eyes. Here lies the importance of character. And in the question, most of the informations, the basic informations of a character are given. So we need to go deep into it. So what would be our job? How would we handle those information in order to make a 360 degree, at least a credible character? So let's go straight into the strategies. So what would be our strategy? Number one, our strategy would be to have less number or fewer number of characters. Ideally, there should be two characters. And if there are a group of characters or 3, 4, 5, 6 characters, it would be better for us to divide them into two categories and to treat them as two opposing individuals. Second, identity. We would not deviate even a little from the identity provided in the question. Number three, additional character. We would preferably not include any additional character. And number four, we can definitely add one or two dialogues and utterances, one or two utterances, in order to make those characters lively, in order to give them more credibility. I'd always go for a description which carries motive. While describing, always keep in mind what are the motives behind the character. While describing, always be very watchful what are the actions they are doing. And while describing the actions, please try to add some visual references. Even a single reference could be wonderful. For instance, in the story of the tortoise and the rabbit, just add a smirk on the face of the rabbit. It would clearly, it would very easily establish the character as an arrogant, as someone overconfident, as somebody who is non-caring personality. Again, while describing the tortoise, add some sweat on its face, and that will make the character very, very convincing, as it believed in toil, as it believed in hard work. Your aim is to foreground, is to establish, to emphasize on the values of hard work. It will help you a lot. And now, the single most important factor that would make or break your story, that is plot. Plot is basically the story. And I could talk about plot till my tongue bleeds, but one must restrict oneself to the occasion. So let's go straight to the strategies for our answer. Plot is the story, as I told you, and the clarity in understanding the given plot line is crucial. So whatever you are provided with in your question, you must read the question repeatedly in order to get to the meaning. You must read it at least 3, 4 times. There is a kind of tendency to add some extra incidents that is not there in the question. Just please don't do that. If there are more than 2 characters, always try to divide them into two groups and try to treat them as two opposing individuals. Please always keep in mind that conflict is what a plot is made to create and made to resolve. I'm repeating again, always keep in mind a plot is made to create a conflict and to resolve it. So it is the plot that is the story basically. They say, well begun is half done. It's so very true about the stories. The first sentence of a story must transport a reader to the world of the story. For instance, in our story of the princess, let's start it like there was a king and a queen in a far off land of Rajasthan, maybe in Mewar, who were having the best time of their life with their subjects. But their only concern was their daughter. She was good at everything, but she was whimsical. So now see, it is through this word whimsical we are introducing the element of uncertainty which we would build into a tension, into a conflict between the king and the queen as one group, and the opposing group as the opposing individual would be the princess. And thereby we will create a conflict between the motives of the two, king and queen on one hand and the princess on the other. And thus we will create a conflict. So, right from the beginning, position your character in such a way so that we can get to the conflict as quickly as possible. And that is our target. And it must establish a spatio-temporal uniqueness. That is the world of the story. It is unique in its time, maybe 100 years ago, and it is unique in space, maybe in a far off land of Rajasthan, maybe somewhere else in the Never Never Land. But it must be unique, both in terms of time and space. So, right from the beginning, plan your story in such a way, write your beginning in such a way that it could establish the unique world of your story as quickly as possible. And it could lead the entire thing, it could lead the incidents as quickly to a conflict as possible. And that's the purpose of a good beginning. Actually, the moment the conflict ends or resolves, the story ends. But in order to foreground, in order to emphasize the teaching, in order to emphasize the revelation, in order to emphasize or foreground the takeaway from the story, we generally add a little bit more at the end, even after the conflict ends, even after the conflict resolves. In our story, as the tiger comes back to the palace, the story ends. But in order to emphasize the takeaway that one must not do something which one is not supposed to, one must restrict one's dreams. We must add something a little more. In our story, the tiger comes back to the palace with the smile shifted to its face. Actually, the story ends there. But in order to foreground the takeaway, in order to foreground what the story, what the experience teaches us, maybe the royal priest comes to the scene and sprinkles some holy water on the tiger, and within a moment, the princess is back. A reader can understand This is not possible in real life. So, what is possible is to follow what the story teaches us. So, this is prescriptive in nature. Yes, and there is no problem to be a bit preachy. Our answer doesn't end even when the story ends. We have to write a moral at the end of our story. A moral encapsulates the wisdom that the story imparts. It is either prescriptive or descriptive. It is not necessarily written in a complete sentence, and it is essentially leading in nature. For instance, in our story, what could be the moral? What does the story actually teach us? Think about it. I'd prefer to have the moral as don't push your belief to the level of blindness. You can believe somebody, but please don't be blind with your man or your woman or your friend or anybody. Please don't be blind with anybody. And this is exactly what I learned from this story. So, what have you learned? Write your own moral following two things in mind. Either you can prescribe someone or you can describe a generalized rule of human behavior. In either way, it must be leading. A moral must be a leading one. We will have a detailed discussion on our session that we will have on moral, how to write moral easily. So, in our story of the princess, we can elucidate the storyline that is there in the linear, and that's it. You have king and queen, you have a kingdom, you have the subjects. Just describe in one or two sentences. That's it, the setting is done. Then comes the tiger. Draw the tiger in a sentence, in its case. Draw the princess in one or two sentences, playing with her maids and all. Then bring the tiger and the princess together, have them chat, have them exchange pleasantries, then make the princess right. Draw her as proud, smiling one. Let them leave the palace and let everybody wait for them. Let them be a little more tense. Let the tiger come back to the palace smiling. Draw everyone's motive and then draw the sorrow, the pain on the face of all the characters. Describe them in one or two sentences. And, and then let the royal priest come to the scene and let him sprinkle some water on the holy water on the tiger. And let the princess appear out of nowhere in front of the king and the queen in the subject. Let them rejoice. Let them be happily united. But don't end your story there. End your story with morale.